and individual conversations in cities with large Latino populations. The report provides useful insights on how education funders can increase the number of Latino entrepreneurs in their pipelines. We talked about all of this with the senior managing partner at New Schools Venture Fund. Her name is Frances Mazzano.
Hi, Jen. How are you?
I'm fine, Ms. Mazzano, and you?
I'm doing well.
Where are you?
I am in D.C. today.
Is that home base for you? I take it that's not home base.
That is not home base. No, home base is in Oakland, California.
Nice to have you on board here. Before we get into it, tell me about New Schools Venture Fund. What is that?
Yeah, New Schools Venture Fund is a nonprofit venture philanthropy that focuses on investing in teams of educators and education innovators who seek to reimagine education.
And you've done a study that has resulted in a report dealing with Latinos and education entrepreneurs. I've never heard of that phrase. What is an education entrepreneur?
Well, thanks for asking, Ken. An education entrepreneur is basically someone who says, I have an idea for how to improve education in my local community. So oftentimes they're thinking about starting a new school or starting a new nonprofit, but they're really connected with what are the things that may not be working well for students today and have a passion and drive for improving it.
Mm-hmm. Now you say here, it says here that 1 in 4 students in public schools in this country are Latino, yet they're underrepresented in the education workforce. I just did an interview with somebody who was talking about the lack of teachers of color. And, and we essentially came to the conclusion that if kids have a bad experience in schools, they're not going to look at education as a career. Because it seems like the deck is stacked against them. Is this what you found as well?
Yeah, so in this report, we didn't dig into that part specifically.
Right.
But, through some of the other work that we've done, we've seen similar things. And so, right now, today, 20% of teachers across the country identify as a teacher of color. When we look at the education workforce, we found that about 8% of CEOs of different education nonprofits identify as a Latino. And so the idea that we know from research that when students are taught by someone who shares their racial or ethnic background, that there's all kinds of benefits that come from it, right? We see higher academic results. We see stronger relationships with teachers. Students feel better understood, seen, and loved. And so, we do think it's incredibly important for us to see more teachers of color across the field because of all those additional benefits that can accrue to a student. And we do believe, yes, if you don't have a strong educational experience yourself, you're not going to say, hey, when I go to college, I'm going to become a teacher. So I think there's a lot more that we can be doing both in high school and in college to raise the importance of having more diverse students and diverse leaders enter the workforce.
Now let's get into this report that has come out from your group here. What did you find out when it comes to education entrepreneurs and Latinos?
Yeah, we found a lot of interesting things. One, first, who are Latino education entrepreneurs? We found that those we surveyed, 86 of them said they were under the age of 44, 57 said they were under the age of 34, and more than half identified as a woman. So it was very interesting to say these are young women, mostly women, who are thinking about stepping out and starting a new school, starting a new nonprofit focused on education. We also found that many of them tended to be juggling multiple responsibilities. So they weren't working on their idea full-time. They were working part-time or full-time in another organization. Many were the primary breadwinner, supporting their immediate and even their extended family. So, the idea of stepping out and starting new was like a big step to take. Two, we found that Latino education entrepreneurs oftentimes came from a family history of entrepreneurship. So more than 50% said that they had family members who had started small businesses. So this idea that entrepreneurship was in their DNA because they grew up with it was really striking. We also found that Latino entrepreneurs had a strong calling to improve their local community. So when they were starting something new, they were doing it almost kind of a necessity, a deep passion and drive to improve their local community. It was like a vocation and a calling, not just a job. But then, as you know, anytime you start something new, you need to have funding and you need to have money to get that idea off the ground. And so we were really struck by the fact that less than half of the folks that we surveyed were actually aware of the top 10 education funders, and only 30% of the survey respondents actually received any funding at all. And so it's clear that we need to do a lot more work to share what funding opportunities exist and to help Latino entrepreneurs get access to those pathways that include coaching as well as money. And then lastly, we were struck by the fact that Latino education entrepreneurs were really connected to their local chambers of commerce and viewed that as an important supportive organization for them, where they were getting coaching, networking, and other supports to help them out on their journey.
If they are doing so well on their own, do they really do they? I mean, this is going to sound harsh, but do they really need all that funding?
No.
If they're very, it sounds like they're very creative, they're very motivated. So it seems like, you know, maybe is the access to all that funding necessary for them? Because it seems like they can do pretty well on their own.
Yeah, I mean, I think from a starting point, you can do okay, you know, bootstrapping and, you know, kind of budgeting. But we all know there comes a point where you're like, okay, I need to bring another employee on, or I need a staff member who has expertise that I might have. And those are the moments when you think about growth and you think about building out your idea, where you're kind of stymied in your ability to kind of take the next step because you don't have that funding and that capital. And so even for us in our portfolio, where we are supporting a lot of diverse entrepreneurs, they're unable to really have the impact that they want to have, or really, you know, live out their vision, because they don't have as much access to capital. So you might be okay in year one, but beyond that, you're not going to really be able to kind of do everything you want to do to have the kind of impact you want to have.
So then how do we bring these funding sources to these entrepreneurs?
Yes, I think there's a couple of things we need to do. I think, we at New Schools, as well as funders across the field, need to think about how do we get the message and the word out about our funding opportunities, who we're seeking to fund, what makes someone eligible. We need to provide coaching and kind of like greater levels of transparency as to what the steps are and how you can be successful along the way. I think we need to tell more stories about who we have supported in the past, so that Latino education entrepreneurs, but all education entrepreneurs, can see themselves represented, and to know that we're looking for someone like them. I think we need to form new kinds of partnerships with organizations, as I mentioned, the Hispanic Chambers of Commerce, so that we can make sure that we're finding talent wherever that talent might exist, and that we're therefore able to benefit from the ideas that those leaders might share.
What kind of projects have these entrepreneurs done? Can you give me some examples of what kind of things they've done?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So one example is we have funded a woman, Amanda Fernandez, who is based in Boston, and she is running an organization called Latinos for Education. And what they're doing is trying to bring many more Latino leaders into the field. And so they're supporting kind of like middle managers in education, nonprofits and schools, and providing them with the professional development support they might need to get to more senior levels in their organizations. They also have a program focused on board leadership, so they're helping to equip people to be strong and effective board members, and then placing them in a range of education organizations. They kicked off in Boston. They recently expanded to Houston, and it's been exciting to see their work unfold. And
now, is there a particular? Let me ask this way: is there a surprise that you found from this report? Something that you didn't expect?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect the Hispanic Chambers of Commerce to have played such an important role in the coaching and networking building. I thought that was pretty striking. I was also struck by the fact that many Latinos reported that in their local communities, they didn't feel really well connected to other Latino education entrepreneurs. And I think sometimes we think about the Latino community as hyper-connected, and it's not a monolith in any way, and there are many different, kind of countries of origin represented. And so many folks reported that they didn't really feel connected to others and really would benefit from the network building that could happen locally. So we thought that was pretty striking.
Are these entrepreneurs out to make money doing this, or are they just doing this to help the community, help their people?
Yeah, many are doing this to help their community and to help their people. For the large part of the organizations that Latino entrepreneurs are creating are nonprofit organizations. A small percentage might be for profit, but even if they are for profit, many are taking maybe the money that they're making and reinvesting it in the programs that they're creating every single day. Mm-hmm. So for the most part, this is about passion, a calling, and a deep commitment to giving back to their local community.
I know I'm coming up on time here. Is the report available online? Where can we find it?
Yes, it is. You can go to newschools.org, newschools with an S.org, and on our main website page, you can see a link to the report.
newschools.org. There we go. Frances Massano, I thank you for some time out. Best to you in D.C. and back to Oakland.
Thanks so much. Really appreciate the time, Ken.
Frances Mazzano is a senior managing partner at New Schools Venture Fund, where she leads the innovative Schools Invent and Diverse Leaders investment teams. If you want to know more, newschools.org is their website, and you can check out their report dealing with Latino education entrepreneurs there. And that'll do it. We'll put the bow on this edition of Conversation Collage. Ken Joannesen here. I thank you for listening. I hope you will check us out on your favorite podcast platform like you did here. We're on all the majors, and we are also on Facebook at Conversation Collage Podcast. We are also on YouTube. We are also on Instagram, Conversation Collage Podcast. Tell your friends about us. We'd love to have them aboard too, and we'd love to have you join us for the next edition of Conversation Collage. Ken Joannesen, thank you for listening. Be good to yourself.